A near-capacity crowd is on hand here at the New Orleans Superdome for today's interdivision battle between the Detroit Lions of the NFC Central and the New Orleans Saints of the NFC West. And good afternoon, everyone. I'm James Brown along with Randy Cross. And Randy, both New Orleans and Detroit come into today's contest as 2 of 7 teams in the NFC with disappointing 2-4 records. But believe it or not, they're all still in the playoff hunt.
There is not a team in the NFC out of the playoff hunt. Matter of fact, Saints head coach Jim Mora told us, hey, this is the most confusing, jumbled season I have ever seen. A bright spot for the Saints so far, though, has been quarterback Steve Walsh. In 3 weeks, he's assimilated the offense, and he's the ideal leader for this ball control conservative Saint offense.
Randy, this much talked about run and shoot offense of Detroit has improved considerably over last season, but surprisingly their defense is giving them trouble.
Exactly. They're struggling, but they get linebacker Chris Spielman and safety Benny Blades back today and just in time. In their last game 2 weeks ago, they gave over 500 total yards and over 300 yards rushing. Safety Blades told us yesterday, hey, if you'd have told me before the season that our offense would average 24 points a game, and after 6 games, I'd say we are 6-0. The reason the Lions aren't 6-0, the defense has not played well. It's time for the Lions defense to come to the party.
The city of New Orleans has not rolled out the welcome mat for the Lions, unsuccessful in 4 attempts here in the Crescent City. Well, Detroit has won the coin toss and has elected to receive. And kicking off for the Saints, Morten Andersen, 9th-year veteran out of Michigan State, having an excellent year. You see the number of touchbacks on his kickoffs, an excellent record indeed. And back deep, the deepest of 3 for the Lions, Mel Gray, a former Saint who leads the NFL in kickoff return yardage, averaging 27.3. And boy, would the Saints love to have him back. As we get set to kick off a doubleheader Sunday here on CBS, and we're underway, and Anderson with the high one from the 4, and Gray loses the handle and is tackled at the 1. And boy, do the Saints get a break early as you take a look at Benny Thompson, who went down there and nailed Mel Gray over that costly muff of the ball there.
What a way to start a game. A high, deep kickoff by Anderson, just mishandled by Gray. Special teams coach Frank Gans would go crazy on that. He cleanly fielded the ball in the field of play and was in the field of play when he was hit, so it was not a safety, but they're about as far back as you can get.
So Rodney Peete will be operating from his own 1. Rodney starting after missing the last 2 games on the ground. Sanders. 4-yard gain by Barry Sanders, stopped by Wayne Martin, and the offensive line for the Lions. Lomas Brown, Andolsek, Kevin Glover in the middle, Dallafour, and Eric Sanders. Only 1 running back in the silver stretch. Barry Sanders, wideouts Clark, Johnson, Matthews, and Terry Greer. 4-yard pickup on that play brings up a 2nd and 6 for Peete and the Lions. Peete to pass from his own end zone, decides to run it, has the first down. So Rodney Peete, that's the dimension he brings to the Lions offense with the scamper, picking up the first down, stopped by Vaughn Johnson. Now, because of the run and shoot of Detroit, an adjustment by the Lions make that the Saints on the defensive end, 2 down linemen and only 3 linebackers. Sam Mills will play, and as far as the defensive backs are concerned, 6 in the game. 1st and 10 for the Lions. Ball at their own 15, just underway here, first quarter play. Richard Johnson in motion. This is Sanders. And Sanders slipping and sliding to the right for a pickup of 2. Pat Swilling, 5th-year linebacker, on the stop for the Saints.
When you're playing against this run and shoot, people like to concentrate on something called the box. These guys are in the box. That's the area right in front of the offensive line, in front of the offense. There are 5 people in front of that box, or in that box. That means a run for the Detroit Lions. If this run would have taken just a little bit longer to hit, it would have been more effective. The defense would have been further out of position.
Ball at the 17, 2nd and 8 for the Lions. Long count by Rodney Peete. And a handoff to Sanders, who somehow escapes being nailed for a bigger loss. And still winds up losing 3 on the play. Ricky Jackson, the 10th-year vet out of Pittsburgh, on the stop for New Orleans. Wayne Fontes, in his 3rd season as head coach of the Lions, 2nd full season. Mr. Optimism, Randy.
His coaches love him, his players love him, the fans love him. Everybody loves Wayne Fontes in Detroit.
And everyone wants to love even more a winner. 3rd and 11 from the 14. Need to get to the 25. Peete dishes off to Sanders, and Sanders tries to juke move, but gets nowhere near the yardage as Ricky Jackson runs him out of bounds. Sanders picks up 5 on the play. They needed 11, so Detroit will send on make that Jim Arnold to punt. 8th-year player out of Vanderbilt, and back deep for the Saints, Vince Buck, number 26.
And Arnold's a punter that specializes, James, in getting great hang time. He's coming off an off-season patella knee injury. He had surgery on it, and he's getting great hang time this year. That enables excellent coverage by the punt team.
And Arnold with an excellent kick, moving Buck back to the 25. Good move to the left. And run out of bounds and tackled out of bounds. A 56-yard punt, 16-yard return. It'll be Saints ball when we come back. Just underway here in New Orleans. James Brown along with Randy Cross bringing you this interdivision battle between the Saints and the Lions. Saints take over good field position from their own 40. And Dalton Hilliard, you see there in the cap, talking to Steve Court, unable to play today. Bad knee problem.
Yeah, he suffered the same injury that Roger Craig from the 49ers had. It was an injury to his posterior cruciate, which is in the inside of the knee. He'll miss 2-3 weeks like Roger Craig has. He'll be back.
I'm sure for most players there's no such thing as a good knee injury. 1st and 10. Saints at their own 40. Walsh back to pass on 1st down. Throws it incomplete and nearly picked off that time by Bruce McNorton. McNorton had a bead on it. Intended receiver was Eric Martin. And the offensive line for the Saints: Haverdink, Dombrowski, Joel Hilgenberg, Trapillo, Stan Brock, and Hobie Brenner, the tight end. Backs and receivers, I mentioned Ruben Mays getting the start, his first of the 90 season, in place of the injured Hilliard. Hayward, the fullback, Perryman and Martin, the wide receivers. 2nd and 10. 3 wideouts in for the Saints. Floyd Turner, the 3rd receiver. On the ground, Mays. 3-yard run. And the defense that the Saints will be looking at this afternoon: Keith Ferguson and a pretty healthy Jerry Ball. Week off did him some good. Dan Owens in place of the injured Kevin Brooks. Linebackers: Williams. Chris Spielman returns to action after a month away. Dennis Gibson and Michael Kofer. And the secondary that's been picked on quite a bit as well: Bruce McNorton, Leroy Irvin, William White, and Blades. Benny Blades back in action as well. Not on injury reserve, but he sat for a month. 3rd and 7. Ball at the 43 of New Orleans. Perryman in motion. Walsh back to pass with time. Throws it complete as Ruben Mays comes out of the backfield. 4-yard pickup, but not enough.
Not generating a 1st down in their first possession, I'm sure, is disappointing for Steve Walsh and the New Orleans Saints. But Steve, you're extremely lucky Bruce McNorton didn't take your first pass effort of the day about 45 yards for a touchdown. Bad pass, he got away with it.
That was a close one as well, as Ray Crockett was right there on that pass. Mel Gray will get a 2nd attempt here to field the ball. First punt return effort. He's 4th in the NFC. Make that 3rd as a good high punt by Barnhart. Gray from the 9. And across the 20 to about the 21, stopped by Vince Buck. So Mel Gray with an 11-yard punt return. Well, Randy Cross mentioned how wacky the NFL is this season. 8 2-4 teams throughout the entire league, 7 in the NFC. There's a three-way tie in the NFC West.
There is a scramble going on right now in the NFC, and head coach Jim Mora, you see right there, knows the Saints are in the heart of it. In 6 weeks, you're 2-4, and you're still in the playoffs. That's how wild 1990's been in the NFL.
Lions with their second series. 1st and 10, ball at the 21. Johnson again in motion. And Pete. Sack. They say he's in the grasp, and give the credit to Jim Wilkes, the 10th-year veteran from San Diego State. First sack of the ball game, and a loss of 9 yards.
We talked about the box. Here's the box one more time. Now we got to put everybody in there. There's 6 guys in the box. You get 6, that means pass. It's going to be a pass, and if this is grasp and control, I've got to think the referee is definitely looking out for Rodney Peete's health, because it's ever so brief control and a very, very little grasp.
Jim Wilkes, the veteran along that defensive front. 2nd and 18, call it. 2nd and 18. Pete throws it complete, as Aubrey Matthews is wrapped up and dropped around about the 18. Pickup of about 5 on the play.
As a team, the Detroit Lions do not have very good speed from their wide receivers. They can be covered, and it's very key for the Detroit Lions and Wayne Fontes there to get Barry Sanders in short screens and over the middle involved in the passing game. He had 135 yards receiving against Kansas City 2 weeks ago, and that really brought this offense to life.
As improved as the run and shoot is, or the silver stretch as far as Detroit is concerned, most people say they could be better with a better group of wide receivers.
They could use at least 2 good wide receivers.
3rd and 13, ball from the 18. Pete, quick out to Matthews. And Matthews up near the 25. He's still going to be about 6 yards shy of the first down marker. So the Lions will have to punt it away. The second of the afternoon, Jim Arnold coming on as you take a look at Aubrey Matthews.
And so far, we've seen an offense that supposedly stretches a defense vertically, do nothing but run horizontally and do things back and forth. They need to move the ball further down the field and stretch the Saints defense.
And Vince Buck back for the Saints to receive his second punt of the afternoon. No score, first quarter action, 7:10 remaining in the first quarter. And Arnold with yet another good one from the 26. Buck takes it up to exactly the same spot as last time, to about the 40. Toby Castone on the stop. 49-yard punt, 15-yard return. Part of this near capacity crowd includes 20 foreign journalists, as you see there on the second row of press row, trying to take notes on how the American journalists cover American football, and they will be doing just that with the World League of American Football, which of course kicks off in March of 1991. This is their second stop.
Some of those foreign journalists know as much about as our journalists do. They just get paid more here.
That'll make you a hero. First down as Mays does not get back to the line of scrimmage. A loss of 2 on the play. Randy, we asked Jim Moore about Ruben Mays, and I guess the question that was asked specifically is he the old Ruben Mays?
Jim Mora says he's a cutter, he's a slasher, he's back to running right. The problem is you give him the blocking, he can be the old Ruben Mays. I have to disagree with Jim Mora. I don't see the pop and the fire and the sprint out of Ruben Mays that he had a couple of years ago. I think he's still a little bit tentative and not running at full speed.
2 tight end formation, Brett Perryman out on 2nd and 12 for the Saints. Ball from the 39. Mays again, trying to find a hole, finds a small one, and gets up near the 44. And Randy, of course, he missed all of last season with a knee injury. And boy, before the knee injury,
actually, James, what he had hurt, he had Achilles tendon surgery. He had one done a couple years ago, and they weren't tendon breaks. They were frayed Achilles tendons. He had one fixed 2 years ago, and last year he had the other one fixed. And he's just now getting back to where he can run at full speed. That play was a good example. He did not have much of a hole to go into, so he had to be very tentative.
Prior to that injury, he was some kind of back. 3rd and 7. Ball at the 44 of New Orleans. Trips right formation for the Saints. 3 wide receivers. Perryman now in motion. Walsh complete to Mays out of the backfield. Nowhere near the yardage needed for the first down, and the fans voicing their displeasure with the play calling there.
Well, neither one of these offenses so far, James, are going more than 10 yards downfield or taking any chances.
So Tommy Barnhart, 4th-year player out of North Carolina, comes on for his second punt of the afternoon. And back for duty again, Mel Gray. Mentioned that Mel is 3rd in the NFC in punt return average with a 10.4 average. High and short as the ball takes a Detroit Lion bounce. And that's a live ball. It was a fumble, and this will go over to the Saints. So the ball hit a Lions player, and Fonts obviously frustrated.
That is the second terrible special teams play by the Detroit Lions, a team coached by one of the best special teams coaches in the business. Frank Gans has been completely outplayed, and there you see Gans right there on a punt like that, short. The word is usually fire, fire. You want to get away from that ball. Here's Jeff Campbell right here. Watch the ball come towards him, hit him, the ball becomes live, and it's going to be all for the Saints right here. Watch. The ball hits him on the back.
Back to live action as Mays to the left, cuts back, and gets inside the 20. A 7-yard run by Ruben Mays.
Like I said earlier, you're screaming, fire, get away. Nobody should be near this ball. You should run to the sidelines. Why be near here? Why are you going to block? You don't know where the ball is. Get out of the area.
Same situation happened for the Washington Redskins when Johnny Thomas had a ball hit him on the leg when they played the Giants and lost. 2nd and 3. Ball at the 19 of Detroit. Mays inside the 15, down to about the 12. Enough for the first down. 7-yard run by Ruben Mays.
Well, Coach Jim Morris said in order for Ruben Mays to run well, he's got to get good blocking. He gets excellent blocking. Did you see the block on Jerry Ball, number 93, the nose guard? He got crunched. Good blocking by the front of that New Orleans offense.
That's saying something because Jerry Ball is indeed a load. 1st and 10 for the Saints. 3:36 remaining in the first quarter. No score. Saints trying to capitalize on a second Lion mistake. And Mays gets the call inside the 5. An 8-yard gain by Ruben Mays, stopped by Jerry Ball.
Now what to watch here? Watch Mays go this way and watch the block by Hobie Brenner, the tight end, sealing off the backside. Everybody else is going to go this way to open up a big lane for Ruben Mays to cut back into. Hobie Brenner completely seals Kofor off on the backside and opens up that hole for his running back.
And if not for the powerful arms of Jerry Ball, he might have been in. 2nd and 2, ball at the 4 of the Lions. 2 tight end formation. Make it 3. Mays. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide as Chris Spielman gets into the thick of things as he pushes Mays back for a 2-yard loss. And Spielman was anxious to test out that injured shoulder of his, Randy.
Well, as much as you want to hit people and as crazy as you want to go in practice, before you get in a real game situation, nothing simulates a game. And Chris knew sooner or later he's going to get a shot on a big lineman. He's going to get a shot on a tight end. And when the time comes, he says, hey, I will throw my body in there. If I get hurt, I get hurt. But I can't even think about it. I can't let it bother me.
Said he's going to play mad today. 3rd and 4. Ball back at the 6. Play action. Walsh with time. Lobbing it. Touchdown, New Orleans. Eric Martin. So that makes the 48th consecutive game that Eric Martin has caught at least one pass, this one of the touchdown variety, and the Saints capitalize on the second mistake by the Lions and move ahead by a touchdown.
Excellent example of the poise of Steve Walsh. They haven't had a quarterback since Archie Manning that took the time and really had the poise to sit back there and hit his open receivers.
And the point after by Morton Anderson is good. So the Saints, on a Detroit mistake, capitalize and lead it 7-0.
They've got to get after the quarterback. There you see our scoring drive with a pass from Walsh to Martin, a 6-yarder for a touchdown.
Morton Anderson kicking off and boots this one. A beaut. 4 yards deep in the end zone comes out Mel Gray. And Gray up near the 20. There's a late flag on the play as Mel Gray gets it up near the 18.
Well, there was a first set of flags way back here by the kicking team, by the 35, that would indicate offsides against the kickers. And if it is offsides against New Orleans and you're Detroit, you got to take this penalty, get the ball, give them a chance to kick again.
Jerry Alston is our referee for today.
We have offsetting penalties. Number 34 is offsides on the kickoff. Number 51 was holding on the run back. We'll replay the down.
And Wayne Fonts got lucky there, I think, replaying that down, because it was a poor decision bringing that ball out of the end zone from about 3 yards deep. Kneel down, take the ball in the 20.
34 was Craig Hayward for the Saints, and number 51 for the Lions was Nico Noga.
Let's take another look at that 6-yard touchdown from Walsh to Martin. And I'd like to say something here about Steve Walsh. Terry Bradshaw in the NFL Today talked about young players having composure, the quarterbacks being cool. Walsh is a very cool, composed quarterback. Looks, takes the time and does it. He's got the potential, I believe, to be the best quarterback they've had down here in New Orleans, and there's been some great ones. Archie Manning, Kenny Stabler, James, who you worked with last year, was a great quarterback.
And you see Steve Walsh conversing there with Carl Smith, the offensive coordinator. You know, Terry Bradshaw also mentioned that young quarterbacks have to go through the booing, endure the booing of the fans, and indeed Steve Walsh did that the series before. They would displease the fans with the play selection. Walsh calmly comes back, throws a TD strike.
And that's a great combination. Carl Smith and Steve Walsh, they're exactly alike. Very quiet, very calm.
They may have to communicate via sign language, huh? And this is a short kick from the 8. Gray. Flag on a play. Gray has a hole. No one's going to catch him. And Mel Gray scores, but there is a flag back at the 21-yard line, and this, folks, will be called back.
That's coming back. It's going to be holding against the Detroit Lions. Make that now 4 terrible plays.
During the run back, number 57, holding, 10-yard penalty.
The Detroit Lions are piling up special teams mistake at a geometric rate. There you see Victor Jones, number 57, the backup linebacker, flagged for that holding on that return.
Well, although there was a penalty on the play, you got a clear indication of how dangerous Mel Gray is and why he leads the league in kickoff return.
You'll see Victor Jones coming out of the left part of the screen here. We'll see Gray fielding this kick. Now here comes Victor Jones in the left, right there. He's got his hands on the side of the defender, of the guy covering the kick. And it's just, you can't do that. On a special teams play, the referees, there's almost one guy for every blocking combination. The officials will catch you every time.
So Detroit is caught back deep in its own territory, ball at its own 12 with 1:25 remaining in the first. Shuttle pass to Sanders. Sanders with room. The first down. And Barry Sanders, juke moves and speed gets him up near the 40. Boy, none of the Saints relish the idea of being embarrassed by this guy. A 27-yard scamper by Barry Sanders.
And almost a smile out of Jim Mora on that run right there. Watch Barry Sanders. The key part to really concentrate on, it's a shuttle pass. It's a great call. Little flip there. Watch Brett Maxey, number 39, come into the screen right here. You remember the old term getting faked out of your jock? He got disrobed by Barry Sanders on that one.
Ball at the 40 of Detroit. 1st and 10. Under a minute to play in the first quarter. Lions trailing by a touchdown. Pete, good time. Complete to Clark. And Clark picks up another first down. Ball will be marked at the 45 of New Orleans. A 16-yard pass play. So Detroit trying to come back quickly.
Defensive football is a game of reactions and really of reflexes. On the game before, or the play before, Barry goes a long way on a little flip pass like that. That play, the linebackers were a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage. They were more concerned with Barry Sanders. That opened up the crease between the linebackers and the safeties for that pass.
This will probably be the last play of the first quarter. Long count by Pete, audibly. And Pete decides to keep it and runs for the first down and is out of bounds inside the 30. But that'll do it for the first quarter of action as Detroit driving and threatening on that 18-yard run by Pete. Score Saints on top by a touchdown.
CBS Sports coverage of the National Football League is sponsored by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? Federal Express for documents, packages, and freight worldwide. Absolutely, positively the best in the business. And by Heineken and Amstel Light. They're the tops.
Jazz and New Orleans, synonymous, of course, and that man there bills himself as the sax machine. But the music being played today inside, so take a look at Eric Martin, who caught a pass for the 48th consecutive game. And it's his touchdown reception that's the difference in the game right now. Saints on top, 7-zip.
The difference so far in this game, James, has been very, very poor special teams play by the Detroit Lions.
Lions with an opportunity at the 27 of New Orleans to start the second quarter of action. 1st and 10. Pete with time going up top, looking for Johnson. And a near circus catch by Richard Johnson, who is only 5'6", 165, and had to leap up to get over Toy Cook to try and pull that one in. But an excellent effort.
Rodney Peete so far in the first quarter, 5 of 6 for 60 yards, has an opportunity to hit Johnson earlier. He was open. Look at him come back right over the top of Toy Cook. Both guys are going for the ball. That's no interference. But Peete should have hit him earlier. He had an open receiver in the end zone.
So it brings up a 2nd and 10. Sanders trying to find a hole and grabbed quickly by Ricky Jackson. And for an NFL Today report, let's check in New York with Greg Gumbel.
Thank you, James. In Dallas, the Eagles draw first blood. Randall Cunningham, 10 yards to Anthony Toney out of the backfield. And with the point after, the Eagles lead the Cowboys by a score 7-0. Let's go back down yonder to JB and Randy.
All right, Greg, and down yonder here, the Lions have a 3rd and 14 ball marked at their own 31. As a matter of fact, Buddy Ryan guaranteed a victory in Dallas today. That ought to be an interesting one. Interesting here, 3rd and 14. Lions, one of the worst teams at converting on 3rd down. And Pete has room and slips under down at about the 21, a 10-yard pickup, but about 3 yards shy of the first down. Vaughn Johnson on the stop, and that's the dimension that Rodney Peete brings to this offense.
Watch Ricky Jackson right here going against Eric Sanders, the right tackle. You want to see why a linebacker is considered one of the best pass rushers in the NFL? Watch him manhandle this big tackle. Sanders has got him. That isn't holding, is it? Nah, that's not holding. That's having a good grasp of your technique.
So Rich Carlos, the barefoot one, will come on to attempt a 39-yard field goal for the Lions. It's up, and it's no good. So Carlos, signed just a couple of weeks ago, is now 1 of 2 in field goals and the Lions still scoreless. Well, the net effect of this game summary, Saints on top 7-zip, but that last line, Randy, that's the big one as far as Detroit's concerned. 4 special teams mistakes.
You know, I've been around the game a little while, James, and I've played on some very, very bad teams in the NFL. This might be the worst 17 minutes of special teams play I have ever seen. Frank Gans, the special teams coach for the Detroit Lions, I firmly believe is one of the best coaches in the league at special teams, but he can't get out there and do it. Right now, the Lions have lost complete concentration on their special teams unit, and offenses and defenses will not lose a game for you as fast as bad special teams. They've had a drop kickoff. They've had Jeff Campbell get hit in the back on a punt return. They've had a missed short field goal of 39 yards, and they had holding on Victor Jones on a touchdown kickoff return.
And it's 1st and 10 here for New Orleans. Ball at their own 22. Gil Finnerty, the back end. And Finnerty gets the call and actually runs into a wall and is pushed forward for a 1-yard gain. Michael Kofer, the big one, 8th-year player out of Tennessee, and boy, is he a physical specimen, and he hit Finnerty hard. Well, Randy, one of the things that the Lions indicated to us was that perhaps the team was a little too loose last night, and Wayne Fontes had to talk to the team about being focused.
And perhaps on a young, inexperienced team like the Detroit Lions, a bye week, though it was good to get healthy, may have been a real drawback from a mental preparation standpoint, because they don't seem ready to play, especially on special teams.
2nd and 8. Finnerty. Play action. Scales. And Scales leans forward for a 2-yard pickup. Leroy Irvin in on the stop. And Scales, Jim Morris said he really expects a bit more from Scales than he's shown so far.
Well, Jim Morris said, you know, Scales is the kind of guy that really looks like he should play a lot better. So far, he has not played up to the potential that Mora and the Saints believe he has.
3rd-year player out of Wake Forest. Morris said he runs decent, average blocker, decent hands, but should be a lot better. 3rd and 5. Ball marked at the 27 of the Saints. Walsh out of the shotgun. Going across the middle for Martin, and it's complete for the 1st down. Excellent fingertip catch by Eric Martin.
Well, Detroit's got their big guys coming after Steve Walsh and the New Orleans Saints, and it's a nice job of pass protection. But watch this catch by Wayne Martin. Out on the tips of his fingers, William White, the safety number 35, was with him, but it was an excellent catch by Wayne Martin of really an overthrown ball.
19-yard pickup on the play. 1st and 10 for the Saints. Ball at their own 46. 10:45 remaining in the 1st half. 3 wideouts. Handoff goes to Finnerty. And Finnerty gets up near midfield. Called it a 3-yard pickup.
We talked to Finnerty yesterday at the Saints training camp. Really an interesting guy at a Holy Cross. He played at Holy Cross before the running back that everybody wants to talk about, Gordy Lockbaum. And he said, you know, it's not really a good subject to bring up around me. I played there before him. I ran the ball good. He becomes the star.
But he's trying to run toward hope for star status here. 2nd and 7. Ball at the 49 of New Orleans. And boy, did Stan Brock move about a good minute ahead of anyone else on that play. Number 67.
False start, number 67. It's still 2nd down.
Randy, it's almost like you could hear him say, oh my gosh.
Well, you know, nowadays, since the Washington Redskins have started to run so much of this counter stuff from the backside, you see the big linemen are starting to pull. And here's Brock, number 67, going that way. Well, the big guys aren't used to pulling, so they want to cheat a little bit. They want to get a break on the ball before it snaps. A little bit too much of a break.
And he's too big not to be seen. 2nd and 12. Walsh back to pass. Throws it low and incomplete. Intended receiver was Hobie Brenner. Well, you can still see Walsh trying to get into a bit of a groove, and he was very candid. obviously so, saying that he's the only one on this team that needs to play catch up.
Well, actually, he said he loves it. When I was in Dallas, he says, everybody around me was learning the offense. And Steve Walsh is not here in New Orleans. He goes, now I'm the only one learning. And Carl Smith, right there, the offensive coordinator, is the man in charge of teaching Steve Walsh this offense.
Dime defensive packaging on 3rd and 12 for the Lions. 6 defensive backs. Walsh out of the shotgun with 4 wideouts. Walsh across the middle, intercepted. So Detroit takes over on that interception by Ray Crockett, and Crockett had a bead on an interception in the first quarter, makes good on this one.
We mentioned earlier that Terry Bradshaw on the NFL Today had said something about the quarterbacks watching a receiver all the way, and it's a young quarterback's mistake. Well, really, Martin is not open here. Crockett is in perfect position, and anytime you see a defensive back catch a ball and it hits him right on the numbers, that's always a good clue that the quarterback might have messed up a little somewhere.
Back to live action as Rodney Peete drops back on 1st down, going up top. And it's complete to Clark, Robert Clark, for the 1st down. So Robert Clark hauls in that pass from Rodney Peete. Ball will be marked at the 21 of the Saints, a 33-yard pass play.
And this is one of the run and shoot specialties, because what we're going to see is Robert Clark will settle down right in a hole in the back left part of this zone. Right there. Look at that. There's nobody around. That's not a mistake by the Saints defense. That's just an opportunity that the zone defense offered the run and shoot.
The man from North Carolina Central came into today's game with 22 catches. 1st and 10. Ball at the 21 of New Orleans. Sanders, the ball carrier. 1st down. And an extra 2 for good measure. Barry Sanders takes it inside the 10. A 13-yard sprint by Barry Sanders. James, such a mild-mannered young man. Boy, hard to believe that he's that explosive.
And he said something to us yesterday when we talked to him that really surprised me. He said, look, I've just got to face the facts. Coming down here to the last half of the year, I've got to carry more of the load. You have to carry more of the load? What's he going to start doing the banking and the accounting for the organization? This guy does everything.
That graphic there showed Detroit has done the job inside the 20. This is 1st and goal, ball at the 8. 8:20 remaining in the 1st half. Sanders trying to find a hole. And picks his way for 3 yards. Sam Mills on the stop. Randy, we talked with Barry Sanders about how he creates holes and how he has such a great hop move, and we thought maybe his ankles ought to be broken by the way he hops so often.
You know, it's funny in talking to him, too. He says, you know how I got that ankle strength? From years and years of moving laterally. You know where it first started? When I was a little kid. We used to play dodgeball. You said in Washington it was called murder ball, but you stand up against the wall and people throw balls at you. If they hit you, you're out. I don't think anybody ever hit this guy.
Not many of them hit him up here. 2nd and goal. Ball at the 5. Peete. Pass intended for Richard Johnson. Just a little low on the pass. Catchable.
Might have been a little bit low. I believe that was very catchable. And Detroit receivers have had a history in the last year and a half, and the receivers are taught by that man in the middle right there, Mouse Davis with the headset. Going to give Bob Galliano, the backup quarterback, the play, and Bob will signal it in. But these receivers have had a history of dropping passes. If you're not quite fast enough and not quite good enough to get open all the time, you better not drop passes.
3rd and goal. Ball at the 5. And Peete signals for a timeout. So Rodney Peete signals for a timeout to go and discuss things. Detroit trying to score. Detroit, the league's worst in 3rd down conversions. 3rd and goal here, ball at the 5.
But inside the 20, last year they were at 63% converting for touchdowns inside the 20. This year, 87%. Remarkably high, a great improvement.
Detroit. Rodney Peete finds Robert Clark. And those new and improved numbers you were just referencing, born true here.
Also a very, very good example of taking what the defense offers you in the run and shoot. How do you really defense against a receiver who's not even looking when the ball's flipped out? Rodney Peete flips it out. Clark has not even turned around yet. Milton Mack, number 24, covering on that play, never had a chance.
And Rich Carlos successfully converts the point after, so Detroit knots this one up at 7 apiece. Deadlocked at 7 apiece, 7:25 remaining in the first half, and the key plays a 33-yard pull-in by Robert Clark from Rodney Peete, and Detroit evens things up. Rich Carlos kicking off, back deep for the Saints, Gil Finnerty. And Finnerty takes it from the 4. Across the 20 to about the 22-yard line, Nico Noga on the stop. And I mentioned at the top of today's game, this is the first slate of games of a doubleheader Sunday here on CBS. Washington and New York. Most of you will see, and others will see, Chicago at Phoenix. Washington trying to break a 5-game losing streak to the Giants, and Phoenix looks to be a lot better than most people thought, Randy.
Well, they were talking about earlier on NFL Today, the key to the New York Giant-Washington game would be the run defense of the Giants. I think it's the passing game of the Washington Redskins. They've got to move the ball through the air.
With another young quarterback, Stan Humphries. 1st and 10 for the Saints. Ball at their own 22. Walsh back deep to pass. Throws it complete to the 25. Only a 3-yard call, or a 4-yard pickup pass to Hobie Brenner. As we take a look at the NFC East, Giants sitting atop that division undefeated. And Dallas, Randy, you made the point again that if the season were to end last week, Dallas would be in the playoffs.
And that's why you play 16 weeks, because at the end of 16 weeks, Dallas will not be in the playoffs.
Ooh, strong and emphatic.
And you see Phoenix is playing this today down in Phoenix. It's going to be 88 degrees. That's a big, strong, physical offensive line in Phoenix. They can wear an opponent down in that heat.
Ditka trying to talk his guys into shape, saying it won't affect them. 2nd down here. And the Detroit defense affected. Ruben Mays, that time, only a 1-yard gain. Ruben Mays played against Phoenix earlier, picked up 99 yards in his only other previous action.
We saw earlier that Philadelphia-Dallas score. Philadelphia's got to be careful with the Dallas Cowboys. They are a team, if you let them hang till late, they've got a pretty good chance of beating you. Somehow, these guys stay close with a very effective defense, and Troy Aikman does just enough to win games.
3rd and 5. Ball at the 27, 5:50 remaining in the first half. Walsh throws it complete to Martin, and Martin loses the ball. And it stays New Orleans ball, so that was a live ball that Martin dropped, but it went out of bounds as Detroit tried to keep it in play. Did not. So that will be credited as a reception.
This is a replay waiting to happen, because the key is going to be, did Wayne Martin catch the ball, have possession, get 2 feet down, and then fumble? Then it's a live ball. Definitely a possession. He fumbled. The ball was fumbled forward. You cannot get those yards fumbling forward like that on a reception. The ball will come back to where the fumble actually occurred. Watch Wayne Martin. He's got it. He's got 2 feet down, and then he just sort of lets it go.
Well, they credit it as a 6-yard pickup and enough for the first down, as you heard Jerry Alston pick out pass to Brett Perryman, and Perryman dives across the 35. Call it a 2-yard gain on that play.
And if Brett Perryman wants to go over the middle today, I tell you what, Benny Blades, the safety coming back from a little knee injury, is waiting for Mr. Perryman.
His good friend, Benny Blades.
My good buddy. He goes, we asked him yesterday, are you going to take a good shot at Perryman if you get it? He goes, what? What do you think? I'm going to lay him away.
He said the same also applies for Steve Walsh. 2nd and 8. Mays, alone back. Floyd Turner in motion. Trips right formation. Little confusion. And Perryman comes back to the left. And it goes to Mays. And Mays gets enough yardage for the first down. So a good second effort by Ruben Mays as he fights his way for the first down yardage. And for an update around the NFL, let's check in with Greg Gumbel.
JB, thank you. With all the talk of a possible drug indictment, you had to wonder how Donald Igwebuike would react once he got out on the field. He nailed a field goal from 20 yards out, and that pulls the Vikings into a 3-3 tie with Green Bay in Milwaukee. Let's go back to New Orleans. JB and Randy.
All right, Greg, and talk about playing with a burden, a mental burden indeed. Igwebuike not showing any effects there. 1st and 10 for the Saints. Ball at their own 43. Mays. And Ruben Mays, running like the Mays of old, gets the ball to midfield, an 8-yard run to the right with 3:33 remaining, and Ruben Mays looking effective.
Now this is a play 2 plays ago, but what I want you to look at this trips formation. All 3 of these guys here are going to line up in a straight line. Linebacker Chris Spielman told us yesterday they do 2 things when that happens. They either run the counter with the tackle and the guard pulling backside, or it's a boot and a short pass. Right here, it's a counter backside. Look for that 3 wide receiver formation.
2nd and 2. Ball marked at the 49 of Detroit. This is Mays. And Mays takes it down to the 44. So a 5-yard pickup, 11 carries for 48 yards on the afternoon for Ruben Mays, and the near capacity crowd here at the Superdome enjoying this drive, all tied up at 7 apiece with 2:45 remaining in the second. James Brown along with Randy Cross.
And so far the New Orleans Saints saw on film from 2 weeks ago, there are some holes in the backside of the run defense of the Detroit Lions. They have taken very good advantage with Ruben Mays of the backside of Detroit's defense.
1st and 10. Walsh throws it complete for another first down to Hobie Brenner. And Hobie Brenner has become the Saints' all-time career leader in receiving yards among tight ends. A 12-yard pickup on that play as we wind our way to the 2-minute mark of the first half. Score deadlock at 7 apiece. Good college football action on slate for next week here on CBS Sports. Next Saturday at 2 o'clock, it'll be #1 Virginia taking on the 16th ranked Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets.
And that's quarterback Sean Moore from Virginia, and you won't see him tested better, I believe, until the bowl games come than he will be next week against Georgia Tech and that swarming defense they've got down there in Atlanta.
See the timeouts remaining. Wayne Fontes' team with 2. New Orleans with the full complement of 3. And right now, the Lions defense being tested. The longest drive of the day. This is the 9th play coming up for the Saints. 1st and 10. Ball at the 32 of the Lions. Mays, the ball carrier. Strung out and dropped. A flag on the play as Benny Blades hog-tied him and dropped him. But there is a flag. And Jerry Austin points in the direction of the Saints.
Tripping, number 72 offense, 10 yards, still first down.
Offensive trick tried that time by Jim Dombrowski.
And when you see a guard get called for tripping in that situation, when a play's going laterally like that, it's usually in a blocking combination. Dombrowski was probably working right there in that case with his left tackle Haverdink. Maybe the linebackers tried to run through. Maybe the defensive end got away. But when he's going to the ground, his last desperate move is to try to keep that guy from getting his running back. And hey, you trip him, you kick him, you hold him. It doesn't matter, you just try it.
Sounds like that's from the book of Randy Cross. 1st and 20. Walsh dumps it off to Mays. And Mays takes it to about the 38. 5-yard pickup, 20 needed. Will bring up a 2nd and 15.
Good job of recognition on that play by the Detroit Lion defense, led by Chris Spielman, their inside linebacker, number 54. He saw that thing coming all the way. And you look at a veteran like Spielman. Well, look at that right shoulder. See the way his right shoulder's raised up a little bit higher than the left shoulder? That's not because of the way he's standing. That's because of those extra pads underneath there. But Spielman studies all week long. When he sees a certain formation, he sees motion, he knows it's a play. He knew that was a screen.
From the 38 of Detroit, 2nd and 15. 1:08 remaining in the first half. Walsh complete to Brenner, and Brenner down to the 30. About 6 yards shy of what's needed for the first down. That's a 7-yard pickup, and a timeout called by New Orleans. That leaves him with 2. So Steve Walsh will discuss things, and we'll be back in just a moment. Less than a minute to play in the first half, deadlocked at 7 apiece. And don't forget, coming up at halftime, Greg Gumbel and Terry Bradshaw will bring you up to date with all the scores and highlights. Randy, what about this Detroit defense in this situation here?
You see Jerry Ball there, the nose guard in the middle of your screen. Okay, this Detroit defense is what they refer to as the bend but don't break. They like to drop back in their zones. I look for Steve Walsh and his offense to bring something in the middle of this defense, in between the zones, something on a crossing pattern to get this first down. They've got 2 timeouts left, so they can't throw the ball inbounds.
We'll give a look on 3rd and 8. Walsh dropped by Floyd Turner. And that ball was right there. So Morton Anderson will come on to attempt a field goal. Steve Walsh was 6 of 6 on that particular drive until that drop by Floyd Turner.
And did you see Floyd Turner run by Steve Walsh? Steve Walsh was standing there staring at him, and Floyd Turner ran by him, never made eye contact. It's like, maybe, I'm just going to look at the ground here while I run off. Maybe he'll stop looking at me.
This will be a 47-yarder. 52 yards is the best this season for Anderson. It's up. And it's good. So Morton Anderson, who trails only Nick Lowry by 0.2 of a percentage point for accuracy, nails it.
There's Frank Gans, the special teams coach once again for the Detroit Lions, who just a little bit earlier was counseling his players on what they needed to do. The gentleman in the suspenders and the ties next to him is kicker Eddie Murray, who's been bothered all year long by a high hip muscle injury. But what Detroit
hip muscle injury.
A high hip, yeah. What Detroit needs to do here, they need to get the ball out. If Morton Anderson blasts this thing deep in the end zone, drop your knee, get the ball to the 20, and let your offense get on the field. Detroit has 45 seconds right now. They have 2 timeouts left. That's plenty of time to get within Carlos field goal range. They have to get to at least the New Orleans 30 once they get the ball.
Keep in mind that Carlos did miss a 39-yarder earlier. Picked up by Gray from the 3. Gray met hard and smacked in his tracks. Greg Scales, 6'4", 253 pounds with the crushing hit. And boy, I've heard you say too many times, special teamers, particularly return people, earn their money. So Rodney Peete will come on to guide the Lions. 1st and 10, ball at their own 20. 2 timeouts remaining for the Lions. 40 seconds left in the first half.
Don't worry about the wide receivers, James. The key in this drive will be with Barry Sanders.
And the clock expired. Play clock gets down to 0, and they get pushed back. 5 on this play will bring up a 1st and 15. So take a look at Rich Carlos over there warming up with Eddie Murray holding.
The Lions seem to be just a little bit off, James, a little bit rusty, a little bit sloppy. I think this week off might have really affected them from a preparation standpoint. Peete
throws it complete. And Clark driven back a couple of yards. But the Lions picked up 8 on that play as the clock continues to wind down. Ball is marked at the 23. Will bring up a 2nd and 7 situation. Pete going up top for Clark. Complete for the first down. And Detroit needs to call timeout, and they do. So Robert Clark beating Milton Mack on the play for a 42-yard pass play from Pete to Clark.
It's kind of hard to believe in this situation that New Orleans can get creased and gashed in the most obvious place. Down the hash marks, in between the zone, Robert Clark sneaks right in there and gets Carlos within field goal range. This will be a 52-yard field goal Carlos will be attempting, but Milton Mack was just beaten by about a step and a half by Robert Clark on that play.
So Rodney Peete did his part, and now Rich Carlos will call on his foot to see if he can nail this one. Rich Carlos's career best is a 51-yarder.
And New Orleans has always been a very good inside rush team on field goals. This one's not going to be as high as he'd like to get it. He's got to get it low for distance. Watch the middle of the New Orleans defense.
This a 52-yard attempt. It's up. And it's not going to make it. No good. So Rich Carlos comes up a little short. And Detroit still trailing by 3 with 1 second remaining in the first half. Talk about a game of inches and yards, huh?
Well, that's an example there, James. The ball's got to be kicked higher. He knows they're coming in the middle. He doesn't have the luxury of sort of drilling it like he normally would be able to. He had to get it higher and didn't have the distance. And New Orleans will just sit on it and rest it out for the halftime.
And speaking at halftime, Greg Gumbel and Terry Bradshaw will be coming your way to bring you up to date on all the action around the NFL. And that's the end of the first half. New Orleans leads it by the score of 10-7.
CBS Sports coverage of the National Football League is sponsored by today's Chevrolet, who invite you to see why more people are winning with the heartbeat of America. Hewlett Packard LaserJet printers, they'll get you noticed. And by Budweiser, with that clean, crisp, cold taste. Nothing beats a Bud.
Well, welcome back to our studios, everyone. Greg Gumbel, Terry Bradshaw. Those of you who have been watching the New Orleans Saints and the Detroit Lions, let's run down scores and highlights for you, beginning with the game taking place at Texas Stadium between Buddy Ryan's Eagles and Jimmy Johnson's Dallas Cowboys. It's the Eagles by a touchdown, although Randall Cunningham had his problems early on, under pressure. And then number 97, Jimmy Jones, knocks him for a 10-yard loss. Buddy Ryan contemplating on the sidelines and came up with this Randall Cunningham play.
Well, Randall Cunningham had Chris Carter, who was notorious for catching passes, touchdown passes inside the 10-yard line, but now he goes to Tony out of the backfield, so maybe this is the route that the Eagles want to go.
We talked in the pregame about the education of quarterbacks. How's Troy Aikman coming along?
Well, inside, when you're throwing the football, one of the things you never want to do is stare. Notice the eyes. I'll clear it now. Aikman comes out and stares this way the entire way. His vision will draw number 48, the safety, Hopkins, who will read his eyes, come all the way across the field and make the interception right here. Watch Aikman's eyes. Left for the blitz control, stays left, stays left, stays left, stays left, stays left, trail, 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 and here comes Hopkins over. You know, you just can't do that. It's a natural instinct to pick up your key receiver, but you don't want to do that because when you play a great defensive secondary, Hopkins is one of the best at reading your eyes, following it.
Well, there's less than 30 seconds to go in the game at Dallas, and the Eagles are leading it by a touchdown. At Green Bay, or actually in Milwaukee, where the Packers are playing the Vikings, the Pack leads Minnesota by a score of 10-3. Now, you know all about the problems Herschel Walker's been having. First play by the Vikings, first carry of the day by Herschel. And you're right, he loses the handle. He fumbled. Green Bay's number 93, Robert Brown, recovered. Still in the first quarter, watch Don Majkowski's pass here, knocked down by number 99, Al Noga, as the Vikings played some tough defense early on. And Donald Igwebuike kicked the field goal, and then Daryl Thompson with a 10-yard touchdown to make it a 10-3 Green Bay lead. That's a big touchdown for the rookie.
Well, Mikowski's the leading rusher for the Packers. They don't want that to happen. They're a passing football team, and they got to have someone come along. Daryl Thompson, a #1 draft choice out of Minnesota, his first rushing touchdown. This is something desperately, and Fonte wants someone to rush the ball besides this quarterback.
1 minute to play in Milwaukee, and the Packers lead it by a touchdown. The game you are watching here on CBS, the Saints leading the Detroit Lions by a score of 10-7 at halftime, and Jim Mora stalking the sidelines in the Superdome saw Steve Walsh come up with a touchdown pass to Eric Martin.
Plenty of time. Notice plenty of time. Normally teams rush or blitz at the goal line, but not the Lions. They elect to go zone. Martin goes all the way across. Beautiful job by Walsh. Kept his poise. Got the touchdown pass.
Meanwhile, Wayne Fonts and his crew came up with this Rodney Peete 5-yarder to number 87, Robert Clark. But the difference is a Morton Anderson field goal from 47 yards out, and the Saints lead the Lions 10-7 at halftime. They're also at halftime in Indianapolis, where the Colts trail Miami 17-7. Jack Trudeau tore a ligament in his right knee, was replaced by Joe Ferguson, who was ineffective, and Jeff George has come on to quarterback the Indianapolis Colts. Now they trail it by 10. Buffalo and New England are at halftime, and the Bills are leading the Patriots 14-3. Steve Grogan, the start in this game, not a very good first half. 6 of 14, 68 yards, 1 interception, and he has been sacked once as well. And as the first half winds to a close at the Astrodome in Houston, the Jets are leading the Oilers by a score of 7-3. Ken O'Brien, a 42-yard touchdown pass to Al Toon. The Jets are leading the Oilers by a score of 7-3. And now Ken Willis has kicked a 43-yard field goal at Texas Stadium as the first half winds down there. The Cowboys are on the board. The Eagles lead it by a score of 7-3. And the NFL Today continues on CBS after this word from your local station.
Back here at halftime in New Orleans at the Superdome, and the Lions find themselves trailing by 3 to the New Orleans Saints. And Randy, I guess when you really look at it, the Lions really ought to consider themselves fortunate in the first half to only be trailing by 3.
Extremely fortunate. You know, the Saints have been very conservative. They've run the ball very well with Ruben Mays so far. Steve Walsh has sort of dinked things down the field. The key so far really has been the special teams play of the Detroit Lions.
We hear so much talk about special teams and how they can help or hinder. Certainly no miscue is a good miscue, but one in particular hurt the Lions the most.
Look, there's 5 there. The worst, the holding penalty on Victor Jones, backup linebacker. That holding penalty brought back a Mel Gray touchdown kickoff return.
Now, when you take a look at the quarterbacks, of course, Rodney Peete has the big yardage. Steve Walsh has been dinking them. How do you grade them in the first half?
Actually, you know, they're both doing one thing. They're both just taking what the defenses they're playing against are giving them. Detroit's defense is limiting Walsh to stuff way, way underneath. Rodney Peete is a little bit more experienced than Steve Walsh at this point. He's able to find the zones and the corners and the pockets, the little holes in the defense that usually only a little more experienced quarterback can find. He found it for a 33-yard gain to Robert Clark one time. He's hit Barry Sanders on short little dinks and shovel passes. So right now he's got his game moving. He's got the offense in sync for the Detroit Lions.
Okay, Randy, play clairvoyant and look at the second half, and what do you think has to happen or will happen?
What will happen, I think Detroit's got to come out. They've got to feature Barry Sanders. They've got to run the ball and keep the ball away from New Orleans. New Orleans offense has the ability to choke off time on the clock.
All right, and we'll be back with the start of the second half in just a few moments. Saints lead it 10-7.
CBS Sports coverage of the National Football League is sponsored by Chrysler, where luxury is engineered to give you the advantage. Castrol, engineered for today's smaller cars. And by McDonald's, you know the one. It's McDonald's for food, folks, and fun.
Entertainment of the water variety, plentiful down here in New Orleans, indeed. And of course, a little bit of activity upcoming in just a few days here, and that is courtesy of Robert and Amy Greenbaum. Masterful job, I would say, Randy.
You should see the size of that thing too, James, though I must admit that the helmet I wore when I was playing would probably fit on that pumpkin.
Well, Detroit is very thankful that the size of the New Orleans lead is not any greater, trailing 10-7. Rich Carlos will be kicking off as New Orleans will receive in the second half. Gil Finnerty and Gene Atkins back deep for the Saints, and this one goes in the direction of Atkins from the 3. Across the 15, the 20. Flag on a play as Atkins gets up to the 30-yard line. So an excellent return by Gene Atkins, but there is a flag on the play.
And that's right in the area you get for a hand in the back or some sort of a clip. Illegal use of hands.
Well, Randy, after 13 years,
Number 92, holding on the run back, 10 yards from the spot of the foul. First down.
You're smiling, big fella. Not, of course, at the penalty.
They see Winston, the gentleman was caught holding there, number 92, the young linebacker who is a real special team specialist for the Saints. But here in the second half, the Saints had a significant lead in the first half in time of possession, as you can see. For the Saints to win this game, they must maintain that time of possession.
Mays and Hayward in the backfield for the Saints. 1st and 10. Ball at their own 20. This is Mays. And Mays diving ahead for 3 yards. Stopped by Jerry Ball.
Well, we saw in the first half, Mays taking the ball, going here and cutting back. Watch the defensive players for Detroit. Watch these guys flow and keep their gaps covered backside. Mays has nowhere to go. He'd like to cut back, but there is nowhere for him to go to. And Jerry Ball, the nose guard, moves along the line to make the tackle.
12 carries for 51 yards on the afternoon for Mays. 2nd and 7. Walsh to pass. Going up top, looking for Perryman. Out of bounds, and I'm sure Perryman had to be thinking as Benny Blades had a bead on him, and indeed is talking to his good friend.
And if that ball would have been thrown in bounds, Benny Blades right there would have knocked Perryman in the next week.
Boy, did he have that one time. The next week, huh? Maybe even back to Detroit.
That's right. You get a hit like that, where it's set up where wide receivers running along the sidelines, looking up for the ball. That's a real welcome back to the league off of an injury type of a thing for Benny Blades.
6 defensive backs in for the Lions on 3rd and 7. Ball at the 22 of New Orleans. High snap. Walsh going up top, complete for the first down. Gerald Alfin, first-year player out of Kansas State. So that hookup from Walsh gives them the first down.
The Saints have seen the emergence in their offense of a couple of fine young wide receivers. Not only Turner, number 88, but Alfin, number 86. Good concentration. He knows somebody's coming below him. He knows somebody's coming in his face, but he hung in there for the catch.
Standing next to Lonzel Hill, who has been actually passed by.
He's been the victim of the young guys coming along. He's now the 5th wide receivers for the Saints.
From the 38, 1st and 10, just underway here in the 3rd. Saints on top, 10-7. Play action, out of the eye. Walsh complete to Mays. And Mays gang tackle at the 43, 5-yard pickup on the play. Walsh, very cerebral type. That was the common thread we heard through all of the conversations with the Saints coaching staff.
And on that play, he just sort of sat back there and he took what the defense gave him, flipped it off to Mays. But one thing that really amazed me on that play, did you see who one of the first guys was to hit Steve Walsh on that? I mean, to hit Mays? Jerry Ball, the nose guard, got all the way back there and helped on that tackle.
Little family support here. Steve Walsh's father with the glasses, Bill Walsh, sitting next to Steve's girlfriend, Laura. 2nd and 5. Hayward, and Craig Hayward bullying his way for the first down, and did he carry a bunch of white shirts with him? That is what Jim Moore would like to see more of from Craig Hayward, who's actually turned into a better blocking back.
When Craig Hayward was at the University of Pittsburgh, he was a ferocious running back. Now here's a little ferocious NFL-style running. He's going to take Chris Spielman. He's going to take Jimmy Williams. He takes about 2 or 3 guys for a short ride.
A short ride, only his 9th carry of the year, and a first down for the Saints. Ball marked at the 49 of Detroit. 11:57 remaining in the 3rd. Saints on top, 10-7. Out of the I formation. Play action. Walsh overthrows, and it's intercepted. White. William White picks off Steve Walsh, who overthrew the intended receiver, Eric Martin, and there is a flag down near the Lions sideline.
That's more of a case of an infringement after the turnover. Probably one of the defensive players for the Lions, blocking on the interception return. Now watch Walsh get a little pressure early, then he steps up and flips it across his body. Just a poor pass. Well, he had that to do again. He might have taken an extra second to set his feet, get it completely ready to throw before he threw it, because he badly overthrows Martin right here. I mean, not even close.
Well, White didn't have to be very big on that play in terms of stature, although Danny DeVito is his favorite actor.
After the interception, number 29, illegal hands to the face, 10 yards, still first down Detroit.
And the main reason
Timeout.
for the conference right here probably was the fact was that an infraction before the interception or after the interception.
And Detroit moved back when we come back. Great looking shot of skyline of New Orleans and of course the Superdome there. Detroit Lions and New Orleans Saints doing battle inside the dome. Saints on top by the score of 10-7. James Brown along with Randy Cross. Lions 1st and 10, ball at their own 29. Pete back to pass and throws it behind the intended receiver, Robert Clark, as Pete was feeling the heat behind him.
And an interesting note, this is the first time this year the Detroit defense has had 2 interceptions in the same game. A team that has been run against and run against successfully does not usually have to worry about getting too many interception chances. If teams figure they can run the ball, they'll just run it down your throat and run out the clock.
Lions came into the contest with a league low of only 2 interceptions. 2nd and 10. Pete. And give the credit to Ricky Jackson, sack number 2. And Ricky Jackson really does enjoy playing against the Lions. 6 total sacks against the Lions last time.
Ricky Jackson's coming out here working out of the left side of your screen, working against Eric Sanders. Completely physically dominates Sanders one more time for a sack.
A loss of 4 on the play, and Ricky Jackson loves playing against the Saints. Brings up a 3rd and 14. Make that the Lions. Matthews in motion. Now in the slot. Pete throws it complete to Johnson, and Johnson greeted by 3 Saints. Going to be about 5 yards shy of what's needed for the first down. Brings up a 4th down situation, and Jim Arnold on to punt.
Detroit might want to think about starting to roll to Rodney Pete's left, because Jackson is putting all sorts of pressure on the Detroit Lion offense right now from his left outside linebacker position.
Vince Buck back to receive for the Saints. Rookie out of Central State of Ohio. And that one was down by Jimmy Williams. So the Saints will take over after that 37-yard punt.
There was the defensive line coach John Pease and the defense for the New Orleans Saints taking a look at a few pictures being signaled down from upstairs. It used to be snapshots, not anymore. Look at that. That is actually a reproduction off of a video shot of a camera that's up here at the press box level that's transmitted to the sidelines.
High formation left for the Saints on 1st down, on the ground. And really good second effort that time by Ruben Mays. Boy, he's been displaying that all day long. A gain of 6 on the play will bring up a 2nd and 4.
Well, that's the first significant run that Ruben Mays has enjoyed on the onside of a play. Before, he's been cutting back and taking advantage of some over pursuit on the backside of the Detroit Lion offense. That time, the New Orleans Saints played that play on Detroit's side of the ball and made for a soft corner for Ruben Mays.
From the 35, 2nd and 4. 9:34 remaining in the 3rd. Saints on top by 3. First down. Flag on the play. Ruben Mays takes it out to about the 47-yard line.
From watching that play, that's got to be holding on the interior of the offensive line for the New Orleans Saints. Possibly Hilgenberg, the center, working against Jerry Ball, number 93 from Detroit.
Holding on the offense, 10 yards, repeat second down.
Well, that negates a 12-yard run by Ruben Mays.
Now here's Jerry Ball working against Joel Hilgenberg from New Orleans. Watch Hilgenberg kind of torque him to Hilgenberg's left. He gets a hand in there. Look at him pushing that left shoulder with the left arm. Gets the arm underneath and hooks him. A umpire standing behind the nose guard there sees that hook of that left arm on a defensive lineman. 9 times out of 10, he's going to call holding.
2nd and 14 from the 25. Finnerty. And Gil Finnerty gets it up, picking back up 8 yards on the play.
And the Detroit defense made a point of telling us last night, we've got to pick up our intensity. We've got to get to the ball, and we've got to be aggressive like we were last year. Watch Jerry Ball. Gets a jump on Hilgenberg, fights through that block, but Finnerty's got some strong legs and some good upper body strength, runs right through an attempted arm tackle of Jerry Ball. You know, Benny Blades, the safety, told us, we watched the film of our game last year against New Orleans. We were shocked. Our intensity isn't there. We're not tackling like we used to. We've got to get back to our old style of defense.
Jerry Ball is looking pretty good. 3rd and 6. Out of the shotgun. Intercepted by Spielman. And Chris Spielman, a flag on a play. Chris Spielman with the interception. And a Detroit player limping out there on the field as well. It looks like William White.
That push out of bounds on Chris Spielman might have been a little bit late. Might have been what they were calling over there.
And Chris Spielman comes up with interception number 1 in his career.
After the interception and on the run back, holding number 29 Detroit, 10 yards from the spot of the foul, first down.
And that's Bruce McNorton.
Well, Steve Walsh gets his 3rd interception on the day on another pass he wishes he had back, no doubt, because Spielman is sitting there the entire time and waiting for it. Not to be confused with great running backs, but still an interception by Chris Spielman. Here you see Chris Spielman on the bench getting his jersey sewn back together by the assistant trainer, Jan Jaroszewicz.
You want to see that again?
Not in my lifetime.
1st and 10. Pete with all kinds of time. Throws it complete to Johnson. And Johnson picks up the room needed for a first down. So Pete, with the scrambling ability, comes up, and it's an 11-yard pass play from Pete to Johnson.
But they had to do a lot of work to the right side of Chris Spielman's jersey because of the extra size of those shoulder pads. If they hadn't have retailored that jersey, not only underneath the sides, but also underneath the armpit area, Chris wouldn't have been able to get that jersey on or even get his arm through the hole so he could wear his jersey in the game.
1st and 10, ball at the 31 of New Orleans. 7:22 remaining in the 3rd. Pete, the pass. And the only person near that ball was Toy Cook. Intended receiver was Robert Clark.
Well, if Rodney Peete was still playing 3rd base for the USC Trojans, that'd be the kind of throw the first baseman would have to dig up out of the dirt because he'd be the only one get a chance to hit it. Or catch it, I should say.
Jets holding their own. Second and 10 from the 31. Flag on the play, a late one as Barry Sanders picks up the first down yardage and gets down to the 15. A 16-yard scamper by Barry Sanders, and there is a flag on the Lions side of the field.
Well, that's one of the plays you hear one side saying it's the other guys on the other side.
Number 56 of the defense. Penalty is declined. First down.
Well, the Lions were pointing at the Saints, and the Saints were pointing at the Lions, but the Saints are caught for being offsides on a little quick jump on the snap count. But this is a play the Lions have featured this year and last year, a little quick flip screen to Barry Sanders. You get him out in the defensive backfield, and look out. You're not going to tackle him with one guy. You need lots of help.
1st and 10, ball at the 15. And Sanders grabbed quickly in the backfield by Wayne Martin, and a little help as well from Sam Mills.
And we see Wayne Martin lines up right here. You see Swilling on the other side line up here. Sanders is going to try to go this way. Not on this play, Barry. You've got a couple of guys that are going to be all over you. Martin gets him from the back. Swilling gets him from the front.
Second and 15. Looking for Greer. Incomplete. And a great job of covering by Vince Buck.
The Detroit Lions are getting lots of pressures from the outsides by the rush, but Rodney Peete is stepping up on that play with good protection and a very, very nice play. Look at that. Great play by Buck. Knocks the ball away at the last second.
3rd and 15. Dump to Sanders. And Sanders is going to be shy about 1.5 yards of the first down as Benny Thompson applies the hit.
And just another example of that little shuffle pass that Detroit's run a couple of times now. And the interesting thing on that play is that goes as receiving yardage, but people forget, just because Rodney's not standing back there throwing it 30 yards, he's just underhand flipping it. If Barry doesn't catch that, it's an incomplete pass. It's not a fumble. It's an incomplete pass.
So Rich Karlis will come on and attempt to tie this ball game up.
And also attempt to clean up the record so far of Detroit special teams.
A 25-yard attempt. And it's good. So Karlis bangs this one through, and the Lions knot it up at 10 apiece. All tied up at 10 apiece with 5:13 remaining in the third quarter of play. And Rich Karlis, who just banged through that 25-yard field goal, ties it up. And Detroit coming on scoring both of their scores after miscues, interceptions. From the 10, Bobby Morris. And Morris hit at about the 23-yard line by Nico Noga. Of course, we all know that Halloween is coming up on Wednesday of this week, as we take a look at our handy artwork again, once again. And a post-Halloween edition, our crew, the NFL Today crew, in the spirit, as they always are. Next Sunday, start your week off with them at 12:30 Eastern time. Then many of you will see the Washington Redskins battle the Detroit Lions, and some of you will see New Orleans take on the Cincinnati Bengals. Check your local listings for the game in your area. A treat here, all tied at 10 apiece. Mays and Hayward in the backfield. 1st and 10 from the 24. Saints. Hayward. Big fella. Motoring. Picks up about 9. Good blocking on that side by Hobie Brenner. And Hayward talked yesterday candidly about how he would like to run more.
And here's Hobie Brenner, the tight end, working right here against Mike Kofor. But watch this big 260-some-odd pound fullback. He doesn't see anything in the middle. What is he going to do? He's going to bounce it outside. That was Jimmy Williams, I'm sorry, number 59 that Brenner was working against, and had such a good block on him.
And Hayward squirted more for the necessary yardage for the first down. So it's 1st and 10 for the Saints. Ball at the 34. Mays. This game is presented by authority of the National Football League, and this CBS telecast is intended for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or other use of this telecast without the express written consent of CBS, the New Orleans Saints, and the National Football League is prohibited. Wayne Fontes looking at his squad. Battle through the miscues to tie it up at 10 apiece with 3:45 remaining in the third. 2nd and 9 from the 35. Saints handoff to Mays. Mays to about the 41. Pickup of 6 on the play.
And the Saints are trying to blast this ball on the ground, and for very good reason. So far in the second half, Steve Walsh is 2 of 5 for 20 yards and 2 interceptions, which I guess makes him 4 of 5, but unfortunately 2 of them have been to the wrong people for Steve.
If you count from the Detroit side of the ledger.
But their overall offense coming into this point right now of the game, they have 181 yards on offense for the New Orleans Saints. Did a good job so far by the Detroit defense.
3rd and 3 from the 41. Pump fakes. Walsh throws it to Mays. 1st down. Loses the ball. Fumble. Recovered by Detroit. Jimmy Williams. And Williams with some room. And Jimmy Williams scores for the Lions. Touchdown. And Wayne Fontes sees his 9th-year linebacker out of Nebraska return that interception for the score. First touchdown of his career. Young man out of Washington, D.C., he and his wife just gave birth. Well, certainly not him, but his wife.
We had a news item there for a minute, James. You do things differently in Washington, don't you?
We'll take that one, and so will he, Jimmy Williams. So Rich Carlos will come on for the point after. And it's good. A 53-yard interception return for a touchdown by Jimmy Williams. And Carlos's point after puts the Lions on top by 7.
Ruben Mays is going to be at the right place at the right time for Steve Walsh. Early in this play, a pump fake. He goes off to his next receiver in Mays, and then the bad things start happening. Michael Kofor, the number 55, came from the blind side to cause that fumble. And now Williams is looking for a little help. Get some from Benny Blades, get some from Jerry Holmes, or Leroy Urban, number 47, gives him a nice block, and he takes it in for 6.
Jimmy Williams ought to definitely take Michael Kofor out to dinner.
Now here we'll see it from behind. Now look, here's Kofor, 55. He's going for right here. Watch that right arm as Kofor comes in. Bang, with that big right hand right on the elbow that knocks that ball loose, and Williams recovers.
And Jimmy Williams, the young man who did not receive a single football scholarship offer from a major university, and of course, all Detroit people know the story, enrolled at Nebraska and made the squad as a walk-on with his brother Toby. Looks in pretty good shape, not huffing and puffing. Carlos will kick off. Short. Taken from the 6 by Finnerty. Picks up some steam and gets up to the 28-yard line, dropped by James Wilder. And rolling on the ground in pain, number 37, Benny Thompson for the Saints. And he does get up under his own power. Don't forget, coming up after this contest here, the second game of our doubleheader, some of you will see Washington at New York, Chicago at Phoenix. And boy, I think it's really been and is a mental thing with the Skins against the Giants, 5 consecutive losses. And Joe Bugle, ex-offensive line coach for the Skins, doing an excellent job out of Phoenix. They take on the tough Chicago Bears.
Now let's see what kind of counseling offensive coordinator Carl Smith and head coach Jim Mora gave quarterback Steve Walsh during his time on the sideline. Can he keep his cool? Can he keep his composure?
Finnerty, the lone back for the Saints. 2:25 left in the third. Finnerty, the ball carrier. Pushing his way ahead for about 3. call it 4, stopped by Keith Ferguson. We'll bring up a 2nd and 6.
And you see the Dallas Cowboys hanging tough with Philadelphia at 7-6.
Miami, boy, playing some inspired ball. Don Shula talked about how he wanted his squad to have more power. They're playing some powerful football this year.
There's Carl Smith, the man that calls the plays for the New Orleans Saints.
2nd and 6. Finnerty and Hayward in the backfield. Out of the eye. Strong left. Finnerty. And Finnerty bounces off of a tackle attempt and gets up near the first down marker. Maybe about a half a yard shy. Interdivision battle taking place here in the Superdome between the Detroit Lions of the NFC Central and the New Orleans Saints of the NFC West. James Brown, along with Randy Cross, and the Lions took the lead on a 53-yard interception return for a touchdown by Jimmy Williams and lead it 17-10.
Well, thus far, this has been the miscue bowl, James. We've had some terrible play from Detroit special teams, and quarterback Steve Walsh has thrown 3 interceptions, 2 of which have led to scores from Detroit. And then Ruben Mays fumbles and sets up the other touchdown by Jimmy Williams.
3 tight ends, 3rd and short. Loses the ball. New Orleans, and Detroit looks to have recovered. So Randy, the prophet again. You said miscues, and they continue. Detroit capitalizes. And Ray Crockett looked to be the guy who recovered the fumble.
It would appear that Finnerty never had control of that ball after he got the handoff from Steve Walsh as New Orleans commits their 5th turnover. Now watch the control of the ball by Finnerty as he comes into your picture here from the right. He's got it in his chest, never had the ball. The ball was placed against his upper part of his shoulder pads, and it pops straight out of there. Bad handoff. Bad hands.
Less than a minute to play in the 3rd as Barry Sanders takes it on 1st down, and is strung out nicely by the Saints defense as Brett Maxey tried to get a hand on him but pushes him out of bounds. A loss of 2 on the play.
Now watch where this ball is going to hit Finnerty. The handoff is made right into the plate of his shoulder pad on his right 2 of his number, and the ball hits that pad and pops right straight up into the air.
Keep in mind, all 17 of Detroit's points have followed turnovers. This is 2nd and 12. 25 seconds remaining in the 3rd. Lions trying to pad their lead. Pete, under heat, throws it, and it's complete for the 1st down. There's a flag on the play. There is a flag on the Detroit sideline as Pete throws it complete.
Well, that's going to be an interference or a push of some kind called against either the receiver or the defender.
Well, Robert Clark hauled it in. Milton Mack was on the coverage.
And it'll go against New Orleans.
And there are 3 seconds remaining in the 3rd. So the Lions pick up the 1st down.
There's no sense in taking this penalty.
Defensive holding, number 24. The penalty is declined. 1st down.
That's Milton Mack, 4th-year player out of Alcorn State. And that will be the last play of the 3rd quarter. Detroit will have the ball at the 15 of the Saints to start the 4th. Our coverage will continue after this message from your local station. You're watching the NFL on CBS. Lions start the 4th quarter off threatening again. Lions come into today's game having scored 20 or more points 10 times, have never done it 11 times, and boy, these 2 teams moving in opposite directions here.
That's right. Detroit's up to a -1. New Orleans is down to a -11, now bottom feeding in the NFL charity department.
Ball at the 15 of the Saints, 1st and 10 to start the 4th. Pete in the grasp and dropped by Wayne Martin, 2nd-year player out of Arkansas. And let's see if they called in the grasp before the fumble. And I believe that was the case, Randy.
And this is not an example of incredibly great pass rush. This is an example of excellent pass coverage. Pete's got nowhere to go. And not until late does Martin get near him. You saw the ball pop out, but before that, you also saw Jerry Austin, number 34, the referee, waving that play dead with grasp and control of the quarterback.
Talk about a cerebral player. Wayne Martin is one that we were most impressed with as well. 2nd and 17 for the Lions. We'll bring up a 3rd and 17.
You're not going to fool a veteran like Ricky Jackson very often. Pete tried to dump that over. Did you see the reaction of Mouse Davis on the sideline, screaming and yelling? What is it, illegal? Mouse is yelling like that. I guess he's mad at Ricky Jackson. I got it. That must be it. Ricky's not supposed to knock that down. That makes Mouse's offense not look good.
Boy, Ricky Jackson, something about the Lions. That was pressure applied, that play by Ricky Jackson. And Detroit burns off a timeout. That will leave them with 2. 17-10 ball game. Lions trying to hold.
This game summary is sponsored by Levi's 505, 506, and 540 jeans.
The 5th time in Robert Clark's career that he's caught 6 passes or more. Big note here, though, Detroit, all 17 points have come off of turnovers for New Orleans.
Well, I guess you can really overdo this as far as the turnovers and the negative things. You know, Detroit leads here 17-10, but I think one thing gets overlooked in those stats, Rodney Peete is off to a very, very good start here in the first 3 quarters. Very cool, very composed. He's hitting his receivers in the zones. This is a classic run and shoot situation right here.
And a 3rd and 17 to be specific. Incomplete as Rodney Peete tried to find Aubrey Matthews. Randy, I guess we could call this the key play of the game to this point, involving Jimmy Williams.
Probably the worst of 5 turnovers so far by New Orleans is this play by fumble by Ruben Mays, caused by Mike Kofor, and the return for a touchdown by Jimmy Williams. Good block by Leroy Irvin, and Benny Blades led him into the end zone.
Meanwhile, we've got a Saints player down on the field as Rich Carlos gets set to attempt a field goal. And Randy, you're right. You mentioned Michael Kofor, and certainly we don't want to upset the big fella. He, in fact, caused the fumble, and he's a big fella to argue with. And you can see the staff checking out the left knee of the downed Saints player. Well, while the staff attends to him, let's attend to business up in New York with Greg Gumbel.
James, take a look at what's happening in Milwaukee. Rich Gannon back. The short pass is picked off by Sean Patterson on the Packer defensive line. And from the 9-yard line, he runs it in. It's 17-3 Packers. Vikes in danger of losing their 5th in a row. Let's go back to New Orleans, JB and Randy.
All right, Greg, and the problems continue for the Vikings. Started the day off 1-5 as we take a look at the injured Saint player there, the fine 2nd-year player, Wayne Martin. We talked a little earlier about how impressed we were with this guy's intelligence and certainly his field play.
He's being helped off by the trainers after they examined his knee that seemed to be a little bit tweaked. But, you know, going back to that highlight we just saw from New York with Greg Gumbel, the Minnesota Vikings. You know, one thing that's probably jumped out more than anything else this season to me from the Minnesota Vikings, they've got the Joey Browners, they've got the Herschel Walkers, they've got the great defensive linemen. They have proved one thing, I believe, in the last month or so of the NFL season. The Minnesota Vikings have a lot of dog in them. They've laid down on a few occasions, and they're not playing anywhere near their potential.
You know, I talked with Chris Dolman just about 2 weeks ago, and he said he was trying to act like a one-man cheerleader to inspire the guys, but I guess in that statement there, a one-man cheerleader spoke to the problems. Right here, a 39-yard field goal attempt coming up by Rich Carlos. It's up, and it's good. So Rich Carlos pads the Lions' lead as Wayne Fontes applauds the fact that the Lions are ahead by 10.
CBS Sports coverage of the National Football League is sponsored by Oldsmobile. Stop by your Oldsmobile dealer and see what's new from the new generation of Olds. The Upjohn Company. If you're concerned about hair loss, see your doctor. And by America's favorite light beer, Miller Lite, the sole sponsor of the NFL Player of the Year Award.
Back to live action as Bobby Morris returns it to the 20 for the Saints. So with 14 minutes left in the contest, Saints trailing by 10 will operate from their own 20. And a point of note, the Detroit Lions have set a franchise record for the 11th time, a new record scoring 20 points or more.
And New Orleans has nearly a 9-minute pad in time of possession. Go figure. Ray Crockett, defensive back for the Detroit Lions, is down on the field.
Randy, as you and I talked about it in the first half, next Saturday there's more college football excitement coming your way. It actually starts with the College Football Scoreboard Show with Andrea Joyce and Mike Francesa. Then the top-ranked Cavaliers will take on Georgia Tech, and in that game, a brother of a player out here.
That's right, Ken Swilling, great defensive back for the Georgia Tech. What are they, the Hornets or the
they've got
Ramblin'
a couple
Wrecks?
Ramblin' Wreck, Yellow Jackets. They've got a couple nicknames.
But Ken Swilling, brother of Pat Swilling,
number 56
the
there.
Pro Bowler, outside linebacker for the New Orleans Saints, shaking his fingers. It's little things like that. See that tape on his finger, the middle finger of his hand there? Little dings like that can drive a defensive player nuts. They make their money with their hands, kind of like offensive linemen. They make their money with their hands holding. They make their money getting a hold of people. And Georgia Tech definitely hopes this is true next week.
In fact, his brother, Ken, is only a junior and ranked as one of the best DBs in the country. Andrea Joyce and Mike Francesa will bring you up to date with everything that's taking place in the college football world. As Ray Crockett heads off under his own power, Lions fans glad to see that. You know, Wayne Fontes was talking about the kind of attitude he's trying to get his team to have in close games, or even, Randy, when they're ahead.
When you're ahead, you never look back. You keep playing at your level of football. I keep talking about that in the games we do. You have to play at a certain level. And even when you're behind, you assume somehow, somewhere, you are going to find out what it takes to win, and you're going to do that.
Like you did with the 49ers, and your team continues. And Wayne Fontes says his guys in close situations, they're thinking still, well, can we do it? Might we be able to do it?
What could possibly go wrong?
Exactly. 1st and 10 as Walsh slips. And Randy, not a more appropriate label than that which you have given it, the miscue bowl.
Now watch Jerry Ball right here. He was going to drive straight through here, and Steve Walsh trying to get away from the center, but with the pressure in the middle of the defense right here, gets stepped on by either Hilgenberg or Trapillo and never got a chance.
Back to live action on 2nd and 14 as Craig Hayward bursts his way up to about the 28. 10 yards picked up on a play, will be 4 shy of the first down. As you take a look at Jerry Ball, and Wayne Fontes said that the week off really gave Jerry Ball a chance to heal that ankle and play very well.
Well, he came back from an extended holdout with a bad ankle, and the time off really helped him.
Jerry Ball says he'd love to play for the Pistons as well. Claims he's got a good basketball game. 3rd and 4, Hayward. And Hayward, a flag on a play as Jimmy Williams tries to lasso him. Let's see where they mark the ball. He's up near the first down marker.
There's no telling what this penalty is. That came from deep, deep, deep center field.
Well, it'll be against the Saints, and it will bring it back.
Offensive pass interference, number 85, 10 yards, still 3rd down.
That's Hobie Brenner. Ray Crockett. And of course, you saw Crockett heading off a little earlier, had the wind knocked out of him. And Wayne Martin suffered a sprained knee, and he will not be back. Let's hope that it is no more serious than that. That is, Wayne Martin will not be back in. As Crockett back into action.
From a confidence standpoint, I think New Orleans has to get this ball down the field, and Steve Walsh has to avoid throwing in the middle of the field.
On 3rd and 13. And dropped as Michael Kofor comes in and drops Steve Walsh. First sack of the afternoon for the Lions. Wonderful ball
And the
game.
veteran Mike Kofor coming out from here takes the long route around to get to Steve Walsh. Steve Walsh actually looks to be kind of confident. I'm standing there. Okay, now I'll throw. Nope. I'm going to get rid of it, but not quite.
Excellent move by Kofor, and talk about a wonderful ball game he's played. As Tommy Barnhart comes on to punt for the Saints. And Gray takes it from the 40 and dances his way up about 9 yards. We'll call it 10 on the punt return. A 48-yard punt, 10-yard return by Gray. And coming up later on tonight on CBS, for almost 2 years, Salman Rushdie has been hiding from Muslims who have vowed to kill him. Tonight, Mike Wallace talks him out of hiding and on to 60 Minutes.
Followed by Angela Lansbury in Murder, She Wrote, and the CBS Sunday movie, The Secret Life of Archie's Wife, starring Michael Tucker and Jill Eikenberry.
That'll be coming up later on tonight right here on CBS after some good football action.
I read that comic when I was a kid. Archie, wasn't it Veronica he eventually married?
You were far better than I on that part.
Or was it Jughead?
Jughead, I remember. 1st and 10, ball at midfield for the Lions. And Pete is greeted by Ricky Jackson. Sack number 3 for Ricky Jackson. And boy, he continues to rack them up. 4 sacks total on the day for the Saints.
And Ricky Jackson had 6 sacks in his career against Detroit coming into this game, and has 3 now on the day. 9 career sacks against one team. He's having a great game, and a lot of that I think has to be attributed to Sanders, number 64. The right tackle is in place of Harvey Salem, and Salem is usually a very good pass blocking right tackle.
Ball at the 43, bringing up 2nd and 17 for the Lions. Pete with time. Throws it complete. It's going to be about 3 yards shy of the first down marker, but Matthews holds on to the pass. 11-12 remaining in the game, and Pete and the Lions enjoying a 10-point lead. $15-yard pass play will bring up a second, make that 3rd and 2.
New Orleans has got to stop Detroit here. They cannot let them score on this possession.
Sanders, the lone back, natural for the silver stretch. Pete goes up top, fade pattern. And Terry Greer broke off the pattern a little sooner. And Pete overthrew him.
And Wayne Fonz talked to us yesterday, James, and mentioned, hey, our team does not quite know how to put other teams away. This is an ideal opportunity to put the New Orleans Saints out of this game. Now they're going to have to punt. They're not going to be able to capitalize and get points off this. If they could have gotten at least a field goal, I believe they could have taken the Saints mentally out of the game, because the Saints are too conservative, do not have the big play lightning necessary to make a big comeback in the 4th quarter.
Well, Pete goes in to talk with Mouse Davis. Vince Buck stands back and awaits the Jim Arnold punt. And Arnold gets a beauty. High indeed. .8 seconds hang time, but Detroit can't keep the ball in the field of play. 42-yard punt. Saints will start from their own 20. Lions on top by 10. Quite a bit of their scoring coming on miscues. 3 interceptions thrown by Steve Walsh. And in the meantime, John Fourcade is on the sidelines warming up for the Saints. 4th-year player out of Mississippi. And, of course, he had a very difficult start of the season for the Saints.
I think the New Orleans Saints have 10.5 minutes left. Steve Walsh and this offense can stay within themselves, stay within their game plan. They've got plenty of time. Only under extreme circumstances do you see John Fourcade in this ball game. Extreme circumstance of an interception or a fumble right here on this possession.
1st and 10, ball at the 20. Walsh throws it complete to Mays underneath, and Mays gets up near the 23. We'll call it a 3-yard pass play. We'll bring up a 2nd and 7. 9:57 remaining in the game.
And New Orleans in their hurry-up offense, I believe it's more of a case of trying to keep Detroit substitutions off the field than being in a hurry-up offense.
Hayward in the backfield with Mays. And Hayward, the ball carrier, as he booms his way. And Craig Hayward showing some good, nifty, and powerful running. That one for 3 yards.
Well, let's see. They ran on the first play. Or they short passed on the first play. They ran on the second play. James, what do you think it's going to be here on 3rd down? Maybe a pass?
I think so.
Okay.
I would tend to agree.
We could be offensive coordinators.
Three carries for 21 yards in the afternoon by Craig Hayward. 3rd and 4. Ball at the 26. Walsh complete for the first down. And Floyd Turner holds on to this one. Second-year player out of Northwestern Louisiana. And Jim Moore said that he's getting better all the time. Really likes the way he's playing. He's going to have to come through here.
Nice little flip by Steve Walsh to Floyd Turner, and Turner nearly dropped that pass.
Ball at the 33 with 8:26 remaining in the contest. Saints trailing by 10. Walsh dumps it off to Mays. Mays greeted by Crockett. And that's a loss on the play as Crockett comes in and tackles him quickly.
Detroit has seen the Saints go into this hurry up. They've got their defensive linemen. They got one coming from out here. They got one coming here. They got one coming here. One coming here. You know, it's a great deal. They know they're going to throw, so they just have their nickel defense in for pass rush.
Loss of 4 brings up 2nd and 14. Walsh thrown into traffic, but it's complete at the 35 as 6 of those yards are picked up. Hobie Brenner. As the clock continues to wind down, 7:26 remaining. Detroit with 2 timeouts remaining. New Orleans with its full complement of 3. Continue taking what the defense gives you.
You have to take a few extra chances, I think, right now, especially here in this situation. 3rd and about 8.
From the 35. Out of the shotgun. And Walsh really lucky that time, throwing into traffic, nearly intercepted as Leroy Irvin was right there. And Walsh, 1st and 10 for the Lions from their own 31. Sanders. Pat Swilling on the tackle. Live from the Superdome here in New Orleans, Louisiana. Detroit Lions and New Orleans Saints doing battle. Crowd rather quiet, and that's the reason why. A 20-10 Detroit lead with 6:20 remaining. James Brown along with Randy Cross as we take a look again at John Fourcade, who may be seeing action soon.
Steve Walsh is finding something out about that old saying, be careful what you always wanted, you might get it. He wanted to be a regular starter. Well, welcome to the regular starting life of a young quarterback in the NFL.
2nd and 10 for the Lions. And a leaping sack by Vaughn Johnson. Randy, I would say that was a frustration sack. A frustration sack as he leaped, playing the part of Superman.
He said, I want to get more sacks. I can get after the quarterback. Johnson's way back here. You'll see him come running in here afterwards. He'll come in late. Watch him, he gets a little air time. This is a big guy. This is a 4'3", mean, tough middle linebacker. And you know what, James? He told us he didn't blitz.
He might have disobeyed orders that time. 3rd and 16. Detroit 1 of 8 on 3rd down conversions today. And Sanders hauls in the pass from Pete. And he's not going to get enough for the first down. He's going to be about 5 yards shy. So Detroit will punt. Let's check in New York with Greg Gumbel.
All right, JB, at Dallas, the Philadelphia Eagles get another touchdown. Heath Sherman, nice cutback, missed tackles, 19 yards in the touchdown. About 10 minutes to play in the game now, and it's the Eagles 14 and Dallas 6. Back to JB and Randy.
All right, Greg, and I go back to the comment that Buddy Ryan made, a cocky one, saying that there's no way the Eagles will lose down there in Dallas, and thus far he's proven to be right. As Jim Arnold comes on to punt for the Lions, and Vince Buck is back, but he won't get this one. So the Saints will take over. Ball from their own 31. And John Fourcade, as we saw, warming up, is now into action. And John Fourcade said that when Steve Walsh came, that's all right, I understand how things go, I will be back.
He's a local favorite. They love him down here. They love his story. He struggled for the last 5 or 6 years, bouncing around. Thought he had found a home late last season, the way he's ended the season down here in New Orleans, but definitely managed to give his job away earlier this year, completing 44% of his passes.
Well, he's got 4:43 remaining in the game, and the Saints trailing by 10. 3 wideouts in. Fourcade gets dropped by Dan Owens, the rookie out of USC. And Wayne Font said he thought Dan Owens will be a player for 10 years in this league. Really likes him as a player. Loss of 4 on the play. 2nd and 14 from the 32. Fourcade completes the pass to Floyd Turner, and Turner gets up within about 2 yards of the first down marker.
One thing for Fourcade's protection, Richard Cooper, the first-year player out of Tennessee, is in for an injured Kevin Haverdink at left tackle. That's the blind side.
2 yards needed for the first down, and Fourcade throws an interception. Oh, and is dropped. Benny Blades had it square in his hands and tried to run before he saw it end. Now, if John Fourcade could see the replay of this, he would take that one and run for the first down. He was within 3 yards of it.
There is no one he could possibly be throwing to that's anywhere near Benny Blades. Look at Benny. You think he feels bad? I've got a chance to get in the stats. I've been away for a while. That was a terrible pass by John Fourcade. Fourth down.
Now,
here's your ball game, folks.
4th down and 2. And Fourcade this time decides to run it and gets the first down. Knocked out of bounds by Crockett. Well, prior to that scamper for the first down, the fans here in New Orleans were all cheering for Archie Manning.
But John Fourcade keeps his drive alive with a nice scramble on 4th down.
3:55 remaining in the contest. Finnerty, the lone back.
You've got to keep Fourcade back there and stable in passing. He makes mistakes when he throws on the run.
Complete to Greg Scales, who takes it across midfield to about the 48. And we talked about Archie Manning being the quarterback that the fans were cheering for. Of course, the ex-Saints great, who now does a lot of broadcasting here in the New Orleans area. 2nd and 5. Fourcade throws it complete to Eric Martin, and Martin looks to have fought successfully for the first down yardage. So a good second effort as Fourcade is moving the team, a 6-yard pickup, and it is a first down.
But remember what we're seeing here, James. We're watching a Wayne Font-style defense do their bending act. They're going to give them little things like this. What he cares about is, do you get in the end zone and score?
3:02 remaining, and Fourcade throws that one behind Floyd Turner. Kevin Haverdink is out. Richard Cooper is in at left tackle.
There you see Kevin Haverdink, number 74, who tweaked his knee a little bit last week. Actually was not really expected to come back as quickly as he did, but he's managed to come back and play most of this game. but Cooper's in a tough spot. He's going to be matched up out there against Mike Cofer, number 55, who's having a heck of a day so far, rushing the quarterback.
2nd and 10 from the 41. Forcade rolling right. Throws it complete to Martin for yet another first down. This one inside the 25, an 18-yard pass play, but there is a flag.
I would think we're going to have holding, maybe against Cooper, working against Cofer.
And it is against the Saints as Haverding comes back in and Cooper heads to the sidelines.
Holding number 71 on the offense, 10 yards, still 2nd down.
Tough position for a young player to come into and have to work against a rough veteran like Cofer. Here's Cofer, here's Cooper. Watch the end of the play. Just as Cofer is getting by Cooper, he drags him down with his left arm. Watch this, he's by him. Just a little tug, just a friendly little nudge on the jersey to help him go to the ground.
Cooper,
but that's also what's known as holding.
Cooper, first-year player from Tennessee. Cofer, 8th-year player from Tennessee. 2nd and 20. Forcade reverses field, loses the ball, fumble. And it looks like Detroit recovered. And Sanford Rivers, the head linesman, confirms it as Jackie Klein recovers the fumble. Well, Michael Cofer on top of Forcade, and Klein with the fumble recovery.
And another blindside effort by Mike Cofer. Forcade never sees him coming. And oh, he doesn't even have to hit the ball. Forcade knocks it off his own leg pad there on his thigh, and Klein's the man there in time to get that fumble recovery.
Boy, talk about pressure by Michael Cofer. That's reason enough to want to get away.
But
whale of a ball game by Cofer.
In tennis, that's what's known as an unforced error.
2:40 remaining in the contest. Detroit obviously keeping the ball on the ground, and Sanders, who can make a 1-yard run look awfully exciting, doesn't get very far that time.
In fact, I guess about a month ago we worked Detroit and Green Bay, and defensive coordinator Hank Bulla told us, you know, you can make an entire highlight film out of Barry Sanders' 1-yard runs.
We take a look at some important stats here. Detroit and New Orleans both with 2 timeouts remaining. And don't forget, coming up next here on CBS, the second half of our doubleheader action. Most of you will see Washington traveling to New York to take on the Giants, LT and company, while the Chicago Bears travel out to hot Phoenix to take on Joe Bugle's Cardinals. That'll be coming up next right here on CBS. Meantime, Wayne Fontes trying to keep his troops motivated with 2:32 remaining and to hold on to this 10-point lead.
Teams have in their repertoire what's known as a 4-minute offense. It doesn't have to be 4 minutes left. It can be 5 minutes left. It can be 3 minutes left. We watched the Niners do it a few weeks back against Houston. You get the ball in this situation, you keep the ball inbounds if you throw. If not, you run it and you run the clock out. New Orleans has 2 timeouts left. Detroit gets 2 more first downs. They win this ball game.
2nd and 10 from the silver stretch. Sanders. Vaughn Johnson greets him on the comeback attempt. No gain on the play. Sanders, 11 carries for 8 yards only today, but he has caught 5 for 72 yards as New Orleans burns off another timeout, leaving them with 1. Detroit still with 2.
Detroit now, you would think, would be forced to the air, but don't be surprised if we see one of those little shuffle passes or perhaps a delayed screen to Barry Sanders just to keep it safe and to keep it simple.
Well, Randy, a good job by the Lions up to this point with 2:26 remaining of overcoming the miscues. The coordinating producer of the NFL on CBS is Chuck Milton. This telecast was produced by Bob Mansbach and directed by the able one Kathy Barretto. The NFL Today was produced by Eric Mann and directed by Duke Struck. Senior producer is David Winter. Executive producer Ted Shaker. Thanks to Gary Lynn and Steve Kleinfeld, spotter and statistician. Barry Sanders, of course, in there's lone back on 3rd and 10. And Pete throws it up looking for Clark, and it's nearly intercepted, knocked down by Benny Thompson.
And a great job by Vaughn Johnson of pressuring Rodney Peete and forcing him to throw just a little bit before he really wanted to. He got right in Rodney Peete's face and actually hit his arm as he was throwing that pass.
Your guy, Vaughn Johnson.
I love it. Is this guy strong? I mean, look, he's got muscles all over. He's got muscles on his head. He's got muscles in his ears. This guy is built. This is the last guy a running back wants to run into when he's got the ball, because he will knock you silly.
Rather suave, huh?
Suave and Demona.
Arnold punts, flags on a play. And Buck lets it go over his head. Takes a Detroit bounce. And picked up. Is that Mack? Milton Mack takes it across the 25 to about the 27.
Flags are down in the illegal man downfield area.
A 41-yard punt, 17-yard return by Milton Mack. Note that Mack is from Alcorn State. Some excellent football players out of the SWAC, and of course the Lions had one of the all-time best. The defensive back.
Defense 41, offside, 5 yards, still 4th down.
By the name of Lem Barney.
This is a good decision by New Orleans to take this, I mean, good decision by the Lions to take this penalty. They don't want to give the ball up on the 27-yard line. The Lions had the choice of either kicking it again or giving him the ball on the 27. Arnold is a specialist of getting this ball down towards the goal line and getting it out of bounds and dying it.
And he'll get another chance. Arnold gets this one away quickly. And a good job by the Lions. Did they recover? Did he hit a Saints player? And in fact, it did. So the Lions, who muffed it at the top of the game, near the end of the game, come back and talk about redemption as Darren Carrington. And Carrington recovers with 2 minutes left in the game.
And we'll see Vince Buck here fielding this punt. The ball goes straight right off his hands. He misjudged it, did not bring it into his body. And there's Darren Carrington to recover the fumble on the 3-yard line going in. With a fumble like that in that territory this late in the game, you can stick a fork in the New Orleans Saints, folks. They're done.
So the ball is at the 2 of the Saints. Call it the 3. Sanders. Touchdown Detroit as Barry Sanders picks up the 3-yard touchdown run, and the Lions padding the lead.
And it has become deathfully quiet here in a very large and suddenly very empty Superdome after this run here by Barry Sanders. They've just got man-on-man blocking. Vaughn Johnson tries to run through, cannot get a hand on Barry Sanders. You don't arm tackle Barry Sanders. You've got to hit him and drive through and wait for help.
And hit him quick. And punching it up quickly, Rich Carlos adding to the lead. So the Lions stretching the lead to 27-10 with 1:55 remaining. And don't forget, coming up next week, a post-Halloween edition of the NFL Today. It gets started with our familiar-looking cast up in New York. That's starting at 12:30. They look pretty familiar, don't they, Randy?
Well, Pat O'Brien's at that night show.
And then, of course, it'll be followed by some good action New Orleans will take on Cincinnati, and Washington will travel to Detroit to take on these Lions. And don't forget, there is a second game of the doubleheader coming your way today. Washington travels to New York, and Chicago travels to Phoenix. Good action there. And boy, Phoenix, I tell you, if it wasn't for the running back Thomas back there, could be a long season, but he's turning in some good numbers.
Phoenix has got a big physical offensive line and a surprisingly strong defense who has played very well so far for the Cardinals. But the key to that team is that big offensive line and that number whatever draft pick, Johnny Johnson, coming out of San Jose State, having a very good season. It's hot. It's miserable down there. They've got an opportunity, I really think, to upset the Chicago Bears. You saw Jerry Ball and the rest of the Detroit Lions celebrating on the sidelines.
Finnerty from the 5. Across the 20 to about the 23-yard line.
And assuming a Detroit victory here, this is what the Central Division of the NFC will look, with Detroit moving up to 3-4 and looking ahead now to next week's matchup with the Washington Redskins at home in the Silverdome.
And what about the West?
Tell you what, New Orleans is getting a bit behind the 49ers. They were 4 games. They can now stretch that to 5 games behind the 49ers, assuming the Niners come ahead of Cleveland today.
Forcade from the shotgun. Quick pass to Finnerty. And Finnerty gets up near the first down marker. Well, maybe Buddy Ryan spoke a little too quickly as we take a look at Dallas gaining the lead on Philadelphia. Green Bay holding the lead over Minnesota. And on 1st and 10, Forcade throws it and hits the official. And boy, did the official know he was hit, the umpire. And did he feel that one? John Keck.
John Keck wants to sort of pretend he's invisible. The umpire's job is to not get in the way. John Forcade gets hit right at the end as he tries to dump this off, and Keck is standing right there. Good afternoon. Have a nice flight home.
I like his composure. On 2nd down, incomplete, with 1:17 remaining. And Buffalo over at New England. That game, of course, a final. Houston trailing the Jets still. So the Jets holding on to that lead. Boy, would that be a big victory for them.
You don't want to ever count out the New York Jets, I think, from now on with Bruce Coslet as their head coach. Bruce Coslet will build a winning team with Steinberg in New York.
3rd and 10. Forcade. Grabbed from behind by Owens. Did he get rid of it in time? Apparently so, for the 1st down. So Dan Owens, I'm sure, feels he had a sack in the grasp, but Forcade gets rid of it to Finnerty for the 1st down.
Very loose interpretation of grasp and control, because he was obviously both.
I love it when you're candid. Finnerty across midfield to the 47.
Well, that's one of the problems with officiating and replay in general. I mean, if it's going to be one way, it should always be one way. There should never be any gray area. But this is not a perfect world.
Forcade running a lot of time off the clock while trying to find the receiver. Under 20 seconds remaining as he finally finds Brett Perryman for the 1st down, and there are a couple of flags.
This might be a take-your-pick down. Illegal receiver downfield. I think one of the big offensive linemen thought Forcade wasn't going to find somebody open and would have to run.
Ineligible downfield, number 79, 10 yards, still 2nd down.
Big Glenn Derby, 2nd-year player out of Wisconsin. I guess at 290 it is a bit difficult to hide downfield, huh, Randy?
I should know. I was downfield in the Super Bowl, in Super Bowl 23, that almost cost the 49ers the game on that last drive against Cincinnati.
Ooh.
You cannot hide once you get past that line of scrimmage. All these funny little guys in striped shirts are pointing at you.
Hey, what about that guy Thomas for Phoenix?
18 seconds left. It's got to be a home run or nothing for the New Orleans Saints.
2nd and 14. And Forcade throws the home run ball and is intercepted by Chris Oldham. And Oldham runs the clock down and out. And I guess a fitting conclusion to the day, as Detroit had come into the game as the league's worst in interceptions with only 2, caps the day with an interception. 4 plus 4. Four interceptions and 4 fumble recoveries today for the Lions. And Wayne Fontes, looking rather composed, will I'm sure have plenty of reason to cheer inside the locker room as he talks to his squad. And the Lions hold on through miscues and win it 27-10. And coming up after this contest here, it's the NFL Today post-game show with Greg and Terry. So our final score, the Lions 27, the Saints 10. Once again, Greg Gumbel and Terry Bradshaw will be coming up next with the NFL Today post-game show. They'll bring you up to date with all the scores and highlights from around the league. So for Randy Cross, this is James Brown saying so long from the Superdome. Lions win it 27-10.